All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tiffany Budd. I am the Sustainability Operations Coordinator for NKU. Thank you for attending this recycling presentation by Rumpke as part of NKU's Campus Sustainability Month. Just a few things before we begin. Please keep yourself muted during the presentation and submit any questions through the Q&A or the chat function. Just want to thank Rumpke for taking the time to join us today. And presenting to us is Ann Gray, Education Specialist for Rumpke Recycling. And I'll let you take it away, Ann.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. It's great to be with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time, that you're taking the time to listen to this presentation. So we'll have time for questions at the end. So kind of think about some of those things. So here's the agenda, and we're just going to move along to the next slide. Wanted to give you a little bit of a history lesson. First, some information about Rumpke. The company began in 1932. It was started by William F. Rumpke. And he was a coal merchant, actually. He would go around to the Cincinnati area and sell coal to homes and businesses so they could heat their homes. But thinking back on your American history, this is during the time of the Great Depression. So people didn't have a lot of money to pay him for this. So they started bartering. He ended up acquiring 6 hogs, and that became a very common method of paying him. What he would have happen then, he would have his nephews go out and collect garbage, and that was fed to the hogs. It was a very common practice during that time period because the garbage then was mainly food scraps. So it was a real efficient way of feeding livestock. They kind of outgrew their location in Carthage, one of the city of Cincinnati neighborhoods, and moved, they thought, way out in the country to Colerain Township. And so their operations continued. They would try to sell the coal, but also pick up the trash to feed the hogs. And this moved along until the 1950s when the Food and Drug Administration mandated that if you were going to be butchering these hogs and people were going to be eating them, you could not feed them garbage unless you cooked it. So there was no one at Rumpke really volunteering to do that. And at this time, they had over 2,000 hogs. So they sold off all the hogs and decided to focus on the trash collection. So as you might have guessed, this second location for their farm was in Colerain Township. That's the site of the first Rumpke landfill, the original and the largest landfill. The Rumpke family was very lucky because this site is just perfect geologically for a landfill. There's no aquifer, there's plenty of clay and shale, which we use in the construction of a landfill. So those factors fit together. The company is still family owned by the Rumpke family. There are over 75 Rumpke family members that are employed by the company today. We're in the 4th generation as far as Rumpke family members assuming managerial positions. And I don't see any end in sight with that. This company is very proud of their heritage. So, you know, it's ongoing. We have over 3,000 employees. And we have recently won some very impressive awards. We won the 2020, or one of the companies that won the 2020 US Best Managed Companies. And this award was given by Deloitte Private and also the Wall Street Journal. Rumpke was the only waste and recycling company to earn this award. Also, we just received gold recognition for our 3 recycling facilities. 3 of them, Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus. And this recognizes the state of the glass that we're recycling and the cleanliness that the glass is when it's sold to the end market. So those are our most recent awards, and we're very proud of both of those. Advance, please. Rumpke is a regional company. We're in parts of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia. Rumpke owns or operates 14 landfills and 11 recycling facilities. And that includes our glass processing facility, which is located in Dayton, Ohio. So for example, if you put a glass pickle jar in your recycling bin, it's going to come to Rumpke Recycling in Cincinnati. We're going to break that glass intentionally, and then it's going to be driven to Dayton for further processing. So we're proud of that facility. There are a lot of companies like Rumpke that don't accept glass for recycling. It's a difficult material to deal with. It's heavier to transport. Of course, it breaks easily and it's really hard on the equipment. That's why at our recycling facility, it's removed very early on in the process. But it's a good fit for us because the companies that we're selling that glass to are located very close to Rumpke Recycling in Cincinnati. They're in Ohio or in Indiana. So it is a very good fit for us. Advance, please. Wanted to let you know, and I know we're predominantly going to talk about recycling, but I think you should know a little bit about both sides of the industry. A landfill is not a dump. Dumps are illegal. It used to be a place on the edge of town. People would take things there and throw them away. There was no oversight. That's totally different with our landfills. There are a lot of different agencies that are paying close attention and inspecting these sites very frequently, in addition to our engineers. So it would be like the EPA, the Department of Natural Resources, the Fire Marshal, the Health District, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, etc. So it is a very closely regulated and monitored facility. All of our landfills are. And we are mandated to create a liner system at our landfills, and we'll talk about that. The groundwater is tested. As I mentioned, the groundwater, especially at our landfill in Colerain Township in Cincinnati, is very, 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 very deep. And that groundwater is tested a couple times a year, and then the samples are sent to the EPA. Stormwater, so any water that runs off the landfills ends up in a sediment pond, that water is tested weekly. Air quality, Rumpke always meets or exceeds any of the requirements for air quality, and dust control. And at some of our landfills, we're collecting the methane gas and it's converted into energy, either compressed natural gas, which happens at our landfill in Cincinnati, or electrical energy. Leachate collection, any liquid that touches the garbage is called leachate. And it's actually pumped out of the landfill, and then it's transported to further treatment at a sewer district, like a metropolitan sewer district or a water treatment plant. And then we do a lot to control odor. That's a big challenge for us, but we have different techniques to do that. One of them being dispensers for a mist that's a natural compound created out of plant and vegetable extracts and also water. Vector control, a lot of times we employ naturalists, U.S. Department of Agriculture naturalists. As you can imagine, landfills are kind of a magnet for birds. And that can be very irritating to the people that work there, you know, dealing with the droppings. So the naturalist would have popping noises or whatever he may do to just move these birds along. And then a lot of different methods at our landfills to control litter, whether it's a litter patrol, people that are walking around picking up things that blow, litter fencing, all of these different things are implemented to make sure that we're being a good neighbor. And regulatory compliance is of utmost importance at Rumpke. We know that our credibility certainly centers around that. And we do a very good job. We're proud of what we do. We've been doing it for a long time. Advance, please. This just to give you a little idea as to what that liner system for the landfill involves. Once we excavate or blast an area, which would be called a cell, C-E-L-L, we are required to put this liner in the system. First of all, it's 3 feet of recompacted clay. It would take drops of water hundreds of years to penetrate through that. Then it would be a plastic liner, 60 mils of high density polyethylene. It comes to Rumpke rolled up like carpeting. We roll it out over the clay. Then a geocomposite cushiony layer. It's kind of a sandwich type of liner that is almost like a felt material with plastic kind of tubing through it that helps with drainage and also cushions everything. And then a drainage layer of sand or pea gravel. And then the fluff layer would be residential garbage from our homes. It wouldn't be like from a construction site or from a manufacturing facility. So once all of those liners are in place, then we can put the trash in. One area of the cell is dug a little bit deeper, and that's so that the leachate can drain over to that area. As I mentioned, it's pumped out. So all of these things are in place. So the entire area that we're using, and it could be used for a few years, that's called the cell. The specific area where the trash is coming in on a daily basis is called the working face. So the trash that's picked up today will go to the landfill and it will go to the working face. Again, the working face is just part of the big cell. So advance, please. Just a lot of monitoring. The groundwater monitoring wells, as I mentioned, and you can see what groundwater is, the soil particles that and fractured pieces beneath the earth's surface. And again, this happens very, very frequently. And this testing is done by a third party just to make sure that, you know, everything is above board and the way it should be. Advance, please. Can we move to the next slide?
I did. Is it not showing?
No, it's not. Oh, wait. Stormwater, I'm sorry. Yes, stormwater monitoring. The same thing. The rainwater that comes off of the landfill goes into a sediment pond, and that's tested very, very frequently, weekly at least. And that water can be discharged or like into a stream. And also it can be pumped into a tanker truck that would drive around the landfill spraying water to alleviate the dust. Advance, please. One thing I wanted to make sure that you understood, there's no one at the landfills that's retrieving recyclable material. Sometimes people think that, and it just wouldn't be possible. First of all, it wouldn't be safe for our employees. There are monstrous pieces of equipment at the landfills that are driving over and over and over that material to compact it down as much as possible to make sure that those landfills last as much as possible. In addition to that, that material would have been transported to the landfill in a garbage truck. So it would be pretty contaminated. The companies that we're selling recyclable material to are not interested in getting material that's coated in garbage. So it's just important to think about that material before you throw it away. If it's something that should be recycled, it goes to your recycling bin. There's one truck that picks up that, it goes to Rumpke Recycling. A different truck picks up the trash and it goes to a landfill. So, and that would be the same at the university or at your home. Advance, please. A little background on recycling at Rumpke. We opened our first recycling facility or purchased one in 1989 in Circleville, Ohio, near Columbus, Ohio. We opened Rumpke Recycling in Cincinnati in 1991. And I don't know if you knew this or remember, we had a major fire at that location, April 10th, 2012. Luckily, no one was hurt. The employees performed admirably. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They had been trained to do that. They evacuated the building, they called 911, but it was a very windy day. And some of the material, instead of being completely pushed inside to the facility, still remained outside. And so once it ignited, it just spread very quickly. So the building was destroyed and all of the technology. But at that time, then the Rumpke family had a decision to make, to come back to that location, to come back in a similar way, or to come back bigger and better. So Rumpke decided to come back bigger and better. They invested $32 million in that facility. So the equipment, the technology there is very state of the art. We're very proud of it. Again, just to reiterate, 11 recycling facilities, including our glass processing facility in Dayton, Ohio. And we recycle company-wide 1 billion pounds of recyclable material per year. So we definitely say we're the recycling leader for our region. Advance, please. These are the different categories of materials that we accept. And I think you should understand the factors that determine what Rumpke accepts for recycling. First of all, we have to have an end market or an end user, as either term is correct. We don't make or create anything at Rumpke. We're a hauler. So we're bringing that material to our facility and then we're separating that material by type, and then it's baled, except for the glass, of course. It's loaded up onto a truck or a rail car and off it goes to the companies that are purchasing that material from us. So we have to have an end user. Secondly, we have to have the quantity and quality that these companies are demanding from us. Quantity is not an issue. We have plenty of material, but we have to really make sure that we have the quality of material that they want. And by that, I mean minimizing the contamination. For example, the companies that we're selling cardboard to are not interested in getting a bale of cardboard that has plastic bags or aluminum cans or food waste in it. So every once in a while, one of the representatives, this is just to give you an example of how intense this really can be. one of the representatives from the company that purchases cardboard from us, or one of the companies, will come to Rumpke Recycling unannounced, and we have to cut open one of those great big bales of cardboard so he can see inside and make sure that's exactly what it is, because they're purchasing that cardboard from us by the ton, and that's all they're interested in. So again, minimizing contamination is very important. And then third, we have to be able to safely and effectively separate this material. The safety of our employees is of utmost importance. And so that contributes to the things that we accept. For example, we don't accept steel scrap, metal scrap. We get a lot of that. We do try to pull it out, and it does go to a specialized metal recycler, but we really implore people not to put that in a recycling bin. It can be very dangerous to our employees, and also just do a lot of harm to the equipment as well. So these are the different categories. So we're going to look at each one of them a little bit more intensely. So yes. All right. Compared to all of the other categories of materials, we get more questions about plastic than anything else. And this is what we tell our customers. First of all, we want you to totally disregard the symbol on the bottom of the container, the triangle made out of the chasing arrows with the number in the center. What that's indicating is the type of plastic. It doesn't necessarily mean that that container can be recycled or that it can be recycled everywhere. So we ask that you just take a look at the shape of the plastic container. If the top of the container is narrower than the base, we can accept it. So that's what we want you to really pay attention to, instead of that, that symbol. It's very deceptive. So you can take a look at the pictures we have there. They're all bottles and jugs. So another way of ensuring that you're doing that correctly is just think to yourself before you put something plastic in the recycling container, would I refer to this container as a bottle or a jug? And if you wouldn't, it's probably not. So don't put it in your container. This has a lot to do with the way these plastic containers are made. Plastic bottles and jugs are made by the blown mold method. And that contributes to the different physical and chemical characteristics of that container, the way it's going to melt, which is really important to the companies that are purchasing these plastics. So we are always looking to include more items for recycling. We may be able to expand that in the future, but right now, as far as plastic is concerned, it has to be a bottle or a jug. And if you want to recycle the cap, we would prefer that you leave the cap on. If the caps are loose in the recycling container, they could end up, as they move through the plant, falling through the different openings and intermingling with the broken glass that's being taken to Dayton. And that would be an issue for my colleagues in Dayton, to separate that broken glass from the plastic lids. So lids need to remain on the plastic containers. Advance, please. Then the metal, you can see, like a pop can, maybe a soup can, steel, aluminum, tin, all of these different metals, the cans we want. Sometimes people are surprised that we accept aerosol cans because of the flammable nature of those cans. But this is what we instruct our customers to do. Please make sure that that container is completely empty. We don't want spray paint cans. We've had bad luck with those because a lot of times they're not completely empty, and they can spray on the technology, they can spray on employees, which is really dangerous for them. And so we don't want anything like that. Also, if you would consider the contents of that aerosol can hazardous in any way, maybe bug spray or something like that, we just recommend that you make sure it's totally emptied and then throw it in the trash instead of the recycling container. And if you look at that aerosol can, you can see that we've removed the tip and also the plastic lid. That doesn't really have anything to do with the flammability. It's just the company that's purchasing metal, they're just not interested in getting plastic. So that's the reason for that. Advance, please. Then the glass bottles and jars. We accept all different colors. The clear, we don't have a representation of an amber bottle, but like a beer bottle or a root beer bottle would be an amber bottle. Clear, blue, green, all of those different colors. We're looking for more glass. Again, the companies that are purchasing that glass, I think all of them except for one are in Ohio. They're making fiberglass, they're making bottles and jars again. So they want more glass. My colleagues, especially a few years ago when we were really pushing to get more glass, were going to bars and restaurants and really talking to the owners and the people working in these establishments to recycle the glass. And we've seen an increase in that. But again, we would like even more glass. So, oh, and one thing that I wanted to mention, if you could go back, Tiffany, thank you. And this is not really representative of what we want you to do with the lids. The metal lids may remain on the glass containers for recycling. Now, if you look at the water and the wine bottles, it may be difficult to reattach those lids. And to be honest, because of the small size of those, I can't guarantee that we would be able to recover those small metal lids. But something like the lid for the jelly jar or the pickle jar, we would be able to. So metal lids also should remain on the containers. Advance, please. Then the cartons, and you can see this is the most recent addition to our acceptable items list. I mean, it happened a few years ago after we got new technology in our new facility. But we want these containers in your recycling bin, but we do ask that you remove the plastic caps, and also, for example, with the little milk carton and the juice box, remove those plastic straws and just throw them away. Advance, please. Then the paper products, and the little pie chart is showing you that there's a lot of paper and cardboard in landfills in our region, not just Rumpke landfills. So, and it's really, truthfully, paper and cardboard are pretty easy to recycle. So we're just asking people to please make a big effort to recycle that paper and cardboard. You can see the paper bags like the cereal box, frozen meals, phone books, junk mail, pizza boxes, as long as they're pretty free of grease and cheese and sauce. If the bottom of the box is messy, just rip off the lid and recycle that. Also, always remove the little grease catcher or the liner in the bottom of the pizza box. One thing that we've noticed over the last few years, we're seeing more residential cardboard because people are ordering things online, and that has only increased because of COVID-19. And the companies that are making those boxes are begging for more cardboard. So we know that we're not seeing as much of that cardboard that's at people's homes as we should. So please make sure that you're putting that cardboard in the recycling containers. We need that. We see different cultural trends in this business. Again, more residential cardboard. And when I was growing up, almost every household subscribed to a newspaper, maybe more than one. That's just not the case anymore. We get our news in a lot of different ways. So we're seeing a reduction in newspaper, but more residential cardboard. One thing too, and you can see on the slide, the rule of thumb for paper and cardboard, if you can rip it or if it starts to disintegrate in water, we can accept it. So that would exclude photographs or laminated paper, things like that. Advance, please. This is just another little kind of a throwback to see what things used to look like in our area as far as recycling is concerned. You can see the truck and the different openings, the different places for materials to go and to be separated. So it was source separated, either customers did that or the drivers also did that. And at the time, people were saying it's too difficult to recycle, it takes too much time. So Rumpke thought, okay, how can we make it easier for people? So I would say maybe about 20 years ago, we implemented single stream recycling. And what that means is that anything that we accept for recycling, you can put all together in your recycling bin or cart or a recycling dumpster, because then we'll do the separation. You don't have to separate this material by type. It happens at our recycling facility. And that process is called single stream recycling. And once it was implemented, we did see more participation and we did see a greater volume of recyclable material. So advance, please. And this is just kind of reiterating that. This is a bin. We've kind of advanced in most communities from recycling bins to recycling carts. Those are certainly preferable because of the lids, especially protecting the material from animals, from wind, and from rain and snow and everything else. But this is just to illustrate that all of those different materials that we accept can go in that bin. There are still communities that use the bins, but I think more and more we're transitioning to those carts. Advance, please. This is just to give you some pictures of some of the technology at the MRF. And by the way, that's what the facility is called. The recycling facility is called a material recovery facility, or a MRF. And I hope that you watched the video. If you didn't, I would encourage you to do that. The story of Rumpke, which is located on our website and also our YouTube channel, Rumpke Clean and Green, just kind of walks you through the plant and shows you the technology that we utilize. And this just shows one of the first representation shows you that outside the plant, there's a big container for that broken glass. Trucks pull up a number of times a day. It's driven to Dayton. You can see that the middle picture is kind of talking about our optical scanners, which are really amazing and state-of-the-art technology. With infrared lights, it's helping to identify the different types of plastic. We use it for the paper, we use it for the cartons, very sophisticated. Each one of those optical scanners, and we have we have six. We have 3 for paper, 1 for plastic number 1, 1 for plastic number 2, and 1 for cartons. Each one of those is $1 million. So again, very sophisticated technology, but they do a wonderful job. And then you can just see the bales that are created of this material. We also have a piece of equipment called an eddy current. It's really kind of fun to watch how that operates. It's kind of reverse polarity, and it repels aluminum. So all of the material moving along the conveyor belt drops, except for the aluminum, which flies off the end of the conveyor belt onto a separate belt. So it's an effective, kind of an ingenious way of separating the aluminum. Advance, please. Taking a look at the time here. Also, you can see here just some bales, just showing you what these bales look like. These are bales of aluminum. The bales of aluminum usually weigh about 900 pounds. They're not as heavy as the bales of like paper and cardboard. But you can see, if you look closely, there's wire that's shot around those bales when they're created. And then we'd use a forklift and load those up into a rail car or a tractor trailer truck, and then off they go to be made into something else. Advance, please. New products, and that's important to know what's happening to this material. Cardboard is turned right back into cardboard. Mixed paper would be made into paperboard, like a Cheerios box or a Ritz cracker box, something like that. Newspaper back into newspaper or paperboard. Aluminum cans will be made into aluminum cans. At least that's where we're selling aluminum at Rumpke. That's what happens to them. And that turnaround, the reason that we have that 60 days is it's such a fast turnaround. If you put, say, for example, a pop can in your recycling bin, it's going to come to Rumpke. We're going to separate it. It's going to be baled. It's going to be transported. It's going to be made into aluminum sheeting and then into a can, filled with the beverage on the shelf again, all in 60 days. It's really fast. And then you can see that the plastic bottles, the high density polyethylene is made into irrigation pipe. And that company is in Northwest Ohio. So again, those milk jugs and laundry detergent containers don't have to go very far. The water bottles and 2-liter pop bottles can be made into strapping tape or perhaps carpeting. And then the steel cans could be made into something as simple as nails or as complex as an auto part or appliances. Cartons could be made into tissues or maybe paper towels. So any acceptable material that comes to Rumpke will be sold and made into something new. But just to emphasize, that's not going to happen if that material goes to the landfill. Advance, please. These are some things that we get routinely, in addition to many other things that we don't want, that we can't accept. You can see the propane tank, extremely flammable and dangerous. The last few years, we've been getting a lot of VHS tapes, and I think people are just trying to get rid of them. And what happens, those plastic cases crack open, that tape unwinds, and it wraps around the equipment and becomes what we call a tangler. The metal or plastic coat hangers, also something that we don't want. Garden hose, again, another tangler. Just wanted to emphasize the plastic grocery bags. You know, that seems pretty innocuous. Those are so problematic to us. I can't stress it enough. And I know a lot of times people are trying to be neat and tidy. So they'll put recyclable material in that plastic bag, tie it up, and put it in their recycling container. And then what happens when it comes to Rumpke is the employees have to take extra time to rip those bags open, and hopefully it is recyclable material. And then those bags are flying all over the place and they get caught on the equipment. So we just say, please do not put plastic bags in your recycling container. You can use them as a little trash bag and they can go to the landfill, or you can take them back to the store. And I would double check that. I think there may be some stores because of COVID that aren't accepting them right now. As far as I know, all Kroger locations are. But again, please don't put them in your recycling container. Advance, please. Then, and I know all of you know this, a lot of the benefits, there are many benefits to recycling. It does reduce the amount of trash and thus saving space in the landfill. And that's very important. We want these landfills to last as long as possible. Just for example, for our landfill in Cincinnati in Colerain Township, I began working at Rumpke in 2005. In 2006, we started the process for a landfill expansion with land that we already owned. That process was not completed until 2017. So it's a long and expensive, arduous process. I mean, it should be. The I's need to be dotted and the T's crossed, but it does take a long time usually. So that's why we're so focused on saving space in the landfill, encouraging people to recycle. And unfortunately, we know that maybe over half of the material, not just in our landfill, but landfills in our region, is recyclable material. Then, of course, recycling can save natural resources. It can be a job creator. More jobs are necessary when things are recycled than when they just go to the landfill. It can combat littering. So there are just a lot of good reasons to recycle. Advance, please. Wanted to talk about, first of all, you know, we're very proud of our technology and that we have markets for this material. 98% of the material that comes to Rumpke, recyclable material that comes to Rumpke, is sold domestically. The material that comes to Cincinnati almost exclusively is sold in a 250 to 300 mile radius. So that's great. You've probably heard about the China National Sword. What that means is that in 2017, the Chinese government basically said, we're not purchasing plastic or paper and cardboard from the rest of the world. Rumpke was not selling plastic to China, but we were selling cardboard to China and maybe paper too, I'm not sure about that. So it did cause some upheaval internationally, but we weren't relying exclusively on those markets. We're located predominantly in the Midwest. And that is an advantage to us because the markets that we are utilizing are in this area. So for example, cities may be in Seattle or Portland, Oregon, or San Francisco. They were very dependent on those Chinese markets. And because of that, when those markets evaporated, they had to landfill recyclable material. At that time, we were bombarded with phone calls and emails asking us if we were landfilling acceptable material, and we do not, because we had those markets. You know, we kind of realized that there could be some changes coming, and so we weren't that dependent. So if we accept that material, if it's on our acceptable items list, we have markets for it, it will be sold, and it will be made into something new. And that whole situation that occurred in China was called, the term applied to that is the China National Sword, just so you know that. There was a lot of media coverage about that. We're always working to educate people, our customers and communities, about recycling, the benefits of it, what we accept and what we don't, and it's a challenge. Just relaying that information, you know, what's the best way to do that? How do we do it? Interviews on radio, on television, billboards, mailings, you know, the sticker that's affixed to the recycling containers, our websites, all of these different, our website, all of these different methods we use, but it's a big, big challenge. I'm in the corporate communications department. That's primarily our responsibility. And it's a big one. Also, you know, just to mention again, the energy from our waste. We are very excited about at the landfills where we're taking the methane gas and converting it into either compressed natural gas which hundreds of our trucks company-wide use compressed natural gas. And that's such a great thing for the environment because it's 18% fewer emissions from those trucks. Initially, they're more expensive, and we're talking about recycling and trash trucks that could cost over $300,000. So, maybe even more than that. But over the long run, with the savings in fuel, and for whatever reason, and I know nothing about diesel mechanics, those trucks that use the compressed natural gas are easier to maintain. So all of those benefits are in place. And I've been told that anytime we're in a position to purchase a new truck, we would purchase one that's fueled by compressed natural gas. Also, at a couple of our landfills and even more in the future, that methane gas is being turned into electrical energy. We're always, and then moving on to the next point, as far as new research, recently we've partnered with the University of Cincinnati, the University of Dayton, also Ohio State University, looking to the future about just different and maybe improved methods of waste and disposal and recycling. So the company is very open to that. You have to be. I mean, just like other industries, industry is constantly evolving. So you have to look to the future to be ahead of the game. Advance, please. Just so you know too, I would really suggest that you take a look at our website, also our YouTube channel. There's just an abundance of videos and information on those two sites. Please take a look at those because I think you'd find it really interesting. There is a video about our glass processing facility in Dayton. There's a very brief video by our director of recycling talking about the China National Sword. So I think it can kind of round out the information that I'm giving you today about Rumpke and recycling. And just let me say, I know you've been submitting some questions to me, and I just kind of wanted to keep going to make sure that we got all the information, but I'm certainly ready to answer questions, any and all of them right now. This is the last slide, Tiffany.
Sure, that sounds good. We can get into some of the questions. I'll try to go in order here. Can we put cardboard in blue boxes? That's asked by Andrew. I'm not sure what he means by blue boxes, but that may be the color of his recycling.
Recycling container?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely you may put that in those containers. I mean, sometimes at different places, and probably at NKU, there may be a dumpster that's just designated for cardboard, just because of the sheer volume of cardboard that comes into that facility. But again, if it's a single stream container, mixed recycling, or if it's your container, yes, you can put that cardboard in there. We ask that you flatten it. If it's a really big piece, if you're able to break it down a little bit, that is always helpful to us.
Okay. What about grease on pizza boxes?
We get so many questions about pizza boxes. In fact, we are beginning a collaboration with La Rosa's about pizza boxes because there's always some controversy in families and among roommates as far as pizza boxes are concerned. We do accept pizza boxes. We want you to just kind of use your best judgment before you put that pizza box in the recycling container. If it's really messy, we would prefer that you just throw it away. And I might have mentioned this during the PowerPoint. I mean, if the bottom of the box is messy, but the lid is okay, just rip off the lid. And, we, in Columbus, the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio was like, well, what about a percentage? So we're like, okay, if maybe 25% of the box is really greasy, just throw it in the trash instead of the recycling container. I think that's hard to do because it could be like little dots of grease on the container. So I think in a way we're relying on our customers to just use your best judgment. I mean, honestly, we get pizza boxes at Rumpke Recycling that have pizza in them. They have dipping sauce in them. They have cigarette butts in them. So, of course, that's a huge no. But if you look at that box and you think, this isn't too bad. I think they can deal with just the amount of grease that's on that. Just again, use your best judgment. And we're looking, as I said, we're looking for that cardboard because the companies are demanding this cardboard to fill all the orders for companies that are shipping items out that people are ordering online.
So the important thing is make sure the box is empty.
That's a long answer to a really fairly easy question. But again, it's not such an easy question because people want more specifics than we understand that. But I just say use your best judgment.
Okay, great. Let's see. Can we recycle aluminum foil?
No, and I'm glad that you asked that. We do not want aluminum foil. If you take metal and scrap metal to a specialized metal recycler, they would possibly take that. But the companies that we're selling aluminum to, there's such a difference in the way that aluminum melts compared to an aluminum can that they're just not interested in getting that.
Okay, great. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the plastics that you accept and the top being smaller than the bottom? And you're saying it doesn't matter what type of plastic it is, like what the number is.
It does not matter what the number is, as long as it's a bottle or a jug, because those bottles and jugs, again, are made by the blown mold method. And when those containers are sold, say example, the laundry detergent containers and the milk jugs that are sold to the company that makes the irrigation pipe. And by that, I mean, can you guys see me? I can't tell whether you can see me or not, but anyway, this is what I'm talking about with the irrigation pipe. The black curly stuff. The black curly stuff is what I'm talking about. They want that once they shred it up, because they're shredding this plastic up almost like confetti. When they shred it up and melt it down, they want it to melt at the same temperature. And other types of plastic intermingled with that would disrupt their process. So as far as plastic is concerned, and as I said, there could be changes in the future, hint, hint, but right now there are not. We have not moved forward with anything yet. And we're not able to do that yet. But right now, and for the foreseeable future, if it's plastic, it has to be a bottle or jug. So that means right now, no clamshells, no yogurt containers, no little containers that may be a frozen meal that you would put in the microwave are contained in. Right now, it has to be a bottle or a jug.
Although you can still recycle the box that those frozen meals come in.
You can recycle the box, thank you, Tiffany, but not the plastic container that you actually put into the microwave.
And now some of the, let's say protein powders come in a jug that roughly has the same size lid and container. Those are still okay because they're considered like a jug, right?
I would say go ahead with those. I know what you're referring to. I would say go ahead with those containers. They're usually pretty large, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with that.
And then what about, let's say Windex bottles?
That's okay, but we would definitely want you to remove the lid with the pump if it has the pump spray, because that pump is going to have a little metal spring, which could be a problem. So with something like a Windex bottle, just empty it and put it in your recycling bin. And one thing that I wanted to mention, and I didn't say this, it's important to us to minimize the contamination. So if you can give these things a quick rinse, you know, we don't want you to utilize a lot of water or energy to do that, but that would be helpful to us. If you could just give it a quick rinse and then put it in your recycling container. All of these containers need to be empty. And if you could rinse it, that would be very helpful. And I think in addition to minimizing the contamination, I think it makes a much more pleasant work environment for our employees. I mean, if there's just an assault with all of these different things, it can be pretty nasty for them. So I think it's considerate of our employees to just give them a quick rinse.
Okay, great. How much natural gas is produced from the waste? So you harvest the methane and turn it into natural gas, is that correct?
We do at our landfill in Colerain Township. I can tell you that I don't know the quantity, and I could try to find that out, but I do know that 30,000 homes and businesses in Colerain Township potentially are using that compressed natural gas. So we have 3 gas plants at the landfill in Colerain Township. We have been doing this since 1986. The first gas plant was built in 86, the second one in 95, and the third in 2007. So we know that we have one of the largest landfill gas to direct pipeline energy programs in the world at that landfill. So we're very proud of that. And again, lots and lots of our trucks are being fueled by compressed natural gas. Not that that compressed natural gas is all coming from that landfill. Other sources would be utilized, but we're, you know, as many of the trucks in that area that we can fuel with the compressed natural gas, we're certainly doing it. And we have those fuel stations at the landfill. Takes a long time usually to fill up the trucks with the compressed natural gas, but the trucks are there overnight. So it works for us. I think there is a method of speeding up the process, but it's just not really necessary for us to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is Rumpke considering composting or anaerobic digesters?
You know, we were helping with compost. We were a hauler for food composting previously, and there were two great composting sites in Cincinnati that unfortunately a few years ago, both of them had to be closed down. So for various reasons, and some of, you know, some of them no fault of the operator, just different conditions that were occurring. So right now we have no plans to have a food composting site. You know, things can always change in the future, but I don't think there's anything being discussed about that right now. And that's funny because I do get a lot of questions about food composting. As far as an anaerobic digester, not that I know of, but again, with research, and I think there was some research along those lines with the University of Cincinnati. So, I mean, that could be something that could happen in the future, but I don't think anything, you know, in the near future that I'm aware of.
Okay. So I know that you offer tours of the facility. I've been to the facility myself, and it's an amazing place. Are the tours still happening, or are those on pause for now?
Yes, unfortunately, the tours that we do of our facilities are on pause. We have not been scheduling tours, and we stopped all tours in March. So hopefully they will resume. We do tours of the Rumpke landfill and also the one in Coleraine Township, and also of Rumpke Recycling. And it is an amazing tour. People love that tour because it just kind of puts things together, you know, so that you can see what happens to that material. And we do most of the time, depending on the group, but most of the time we're walking on the floor right beside the employees and the technology. So you see an up close and personal look as to what's happening. But I also think that the video that is on our website is a good way, you know, is an option of taking a look at that. And I will add that we're kind of partnering with Keep Cincinnati Beautiful to do another virtual tour of the recycling facility and also the landfill. And those will probably be completed sometime in December because we're getting so many requests, especially from teachers. You know, schools are not able to do field trips this year. They're not able to have outside speakers. So we're struggling to find ways to fill that void. And I know, Tiffany, you wanted me to mention some things at NKU, some challenges with recycling. Are there questions that I need to finish up before that?
I think we answered all the ones in the chat, so we can talk about recycling at NKU. Andrew, do you have?
I have my hand raised there, but
it's real tiny in the corner. Okay.
And thanks so much. I really enjoyed the presentation. I took my Cub Scouts on a tour of the recycling facility years ago and saw the landfill methane use, and it was really wonderful. But now I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Okay.
It's about another kind of recycling involving televisions. So I called Rumpke because I had a large television, old-fashioned, and I asked them if I could recycle it. And they said they wouldn't do that. And that what I should do is put it on the curb and they would take it to the trash. And that disturbed me, just thinking that, you know, pound of lead and cadmium, et cetera, was going to go into that sealed landfill and everything. Has Rumpke made any move towards helping people to recycle those kinds of really toxic items?
Well, I'm sorry that when you called, you were not maybe given the option to take a look at our website that includes links to different solid waste districts that would have given you the information as to where you could safely dispose of that television and where the different parts of it would be disassembled and would be recycled. And
I was actually,
okay.
And I did get it recycled, but the person on the other end said, you know, sort of like, it's easy, just put it out on the curb, we'll take it in the trash. And they were, you know, sort of emphasizing how easy it was just to get rid of it by putting it in the landfill, which I did not want to do. So,
well, you know what? I appreciate that. I appreciate you telling me that, because we're always working with our customer service department to improve the responses that they give to our customers. And so, and that could be something that maybe they just need to be reminded of that, you know, that there are better options, and maybe that should be the first priority. You know, this is what you, you know, this is what you can do to safely dispose of and recycle or whatever that television. So I will make sure that that message gets across loud and clear. Thank you for bringing that up.
Andrew, I'd also like to say you're welcome to come to me if you have questions like that. I have a lot of resources I could provide you with. For example, the Campbell County cleanup. I know you don't live in Campbell County, but there are cleanups throughout the year in various areas, tri-statewide, that do accept items like that. And I know it means kind of holding on to it for a little while, but you know, it's worth it if it's not going to the landfill. But there are different options. So Rumpke only accepts certain items, as she went over in the presentation, but for anything else that you need assistance with, just feel free to contact me, and I can get you to the right place, I'm sure.
Right. No, that's a good point. Just so we kind of maybe touch on some of these challenges at the university. And I know Tiffany has mentioned this to me. There's such a wide variety of trash and recycling containers at the university. And that's not unusual, you know, in a large facility. So I think it is confusing for people because they don't easily identify that this is for trash and this is for recycling. And I know there are efforts to, you know, maybe solve this problem coming up in the future. So that's one thing to think about. Excuse me. And I realize I'm preaching to the choir right now too. And also knowing just what can be recycled. And as I mentioned in the presentation, it's always a challenge to inform people of that. You know, for example, people will say, well, Rumpke accepts all plastics. And I hear that. I mean, I wish I had a nickel for every time someone said that to me. And, you know, no, we don't accept all plastics. And that's why you need to, you know, make every effort to find out what we do accept. And I'm not just talking about plastics, but it could be anything. And then I've given presentations where I've gone through very meticulously what we can accept and why and all of that. And then people will come up to me afterwards and say, well, you know, I'm just going to put that in my recycling bin because I know Rumpke will find something to do with it. And I'm like, you know, did you not hear what I was saying? Because some of those things could really, again, be harmful to employees and detrimental to the equipment. So one thing that we say, and this might surprise you in a way, or maybe not, we say, when in doubt, throw it out. But then make every effort to find out if it's something Rumpke accepts. And if we do, you know, before your next pickup. And then if we do accept it, then you can put it in your recycling container. So definitely that. And then I know, Tiffany, you didn't elaborate on this, but you said the process could be improved, the recycling process at the university, that maybe it's not as efficient as it could be. And I think that happens a lot of times in universities, and also, and this is very typical in the food courts, just the different types of packaging that are being utilized that we don't accept. And that's a tough one because sometimes, you know, there are not great alternatives. And, you know, there may be better ways of doing it, but that takes some creativity and sometimes maybe additional funds. So that's not anything that is unique to NKU, definitely. But for people, for all of you, I mean, I think you can just be the ambassadors at school, and if you know, also if you work, if you have a job and at home, because you've heard this presentation, you know the information, and honestly, you know, people really do want to do it correctly. We have found that out. I mean, when I do presentations and people find out that they've been putting things in, you know, this is kind of in contrast to the other people, they're like, I'm going to put it all in anyway. But there are people that become, you know, really like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you didn't take that. I'm so sorry. You know, now I know, and I'll, you know, I'll do better. I'll put in that container what you can accept. And we definitely do appreciate that. So I think it's always a work in progress, especially at a university. You know, I think you just kind of have to start and just kind of, you know, evolve with recycling. And that's the case in a university or, you know, in an elementary school as far as that goes. And I got to tell you that those places where people are gathering to eat always seems to be an issue that's more difficult to deal with because of just some of the things that we've mentioned as far as the food and packaging is concerned.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I see there might be some more questions. So before we get to your question, Andrew, I just want to be conscious of everybody's time. So I'll do a little wrap up, and then anybody that wants to stay on and ask a couple extra questions. Anne, are you okay with staying on a little bit longer? Okay, we'll do that. So I just want to remind everybody to check out Rumpke's website for, you know, lots of great resources, the video that she was talking about. I also have the video posted on the Campus Sustainability Month website. And we also have a recycling page on the campus, on the sustainability website. So lots of information listed there and good resources there as well. And thank you for coming today. And anybody that wants to stick around is welcome to stick around and ask a couple more questions. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Anne.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Anne.
Tiffany, thanks for
All right.